Happy New Year, everyone. It is 2025. I thought I would do a recap of my top 10 2024 movies of the year. Now, I didn't see all of the movies, and I still have yet to see some of those that came out like this past week. Movies like Nosferatu, I still have yet to see that movie, so that is not going to be included in my best or worst list of movies of 2024. I've been hearing good things though, so I'm excited to go and see that. I did see a lot of movies this year, and I've compiled a list of my top 10 favorite movies of the year. Number 10 is The Beekeeper. The movie follows Jason Statham's character, which is Adam Clay. He's a retired operative living on a farm, and for the most part, he has an enjoyable life there. He's very close to his landlady. Unfortunately, his landlady gets caught in a phishing scam and she ends up committing suicide, and he wants to find the people responsible. After that, you get just nonstop action as he goes to find the people in charge of this phishing scam. It's very enjoyable. I loved all of the fight scenes. I like Jason Statham in this role, and I like the world that they set up. I thought that it was very interesting. There were a couple of things that I didn't like about the movie, like, you know, the daughter storyline, but for the most part, I did enjoy this movie. Number 9, The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. This is a Guy Ritchie movie, and I found it super enjoyable. In fact, I've watched it multiple times since its release, and to be quite honest, I didn't think that I was going to enjoy this movie when it came out, but I was surprised by how much I did enjoy the movie. It's got some great actors in this movie like Henry Cavill, Alan Ritchson, Alex Pettyfer. It takes place during World War II. This is based on a true story. I really want to read the book. I haven't gotten around to it yet, but it basically follows Henry Cavill, who is the leader of this small military op, and basically their goal is to sink a German ship. Like that is their goal. That's what they need to do. I actually watched this movie again 2 days ago, and I still enjoyed it just like the first time I watched it. Number 8 is Twisters. Surprisingly, it is Twisters. I didn't think that I was going to have a good time watching this movie because I love and really enjoy the first movie, Twister, but this movie is completely set apart from that. It doesn't have anything to do with the very first movie. None of the characters are even mentioned in this second follow-up movie, Twisters. It stars Daisy Edgar-Jones and Glenn Powell. Now, I was a little bit worried that I wasn't going to like this movie because of the first maybe 15 minutes of the film. I wasn't really enjoying the characters that they introduced us to, but after that first 15 minutes, it sort of shifts and we get like a nice time jump. And from then on, the movie was very enjoyable for me. The chemistry between the characters Tyler and Kate really saved this movie for me. I think both actors, Glenn Powell and Daisy Edgar-Jones, played their parts very, very well. The fact that the Twisters weren't necessarily a threat in this movie, that was my one gripe about it, but the movie was enjoyable nonetheless. Number 7 is Dune Part 2. Yeah, I think I enjoyed Dune Part 2 a lot more than other people did. Now, I'm not super invested in the Dune lore. I didn't grow up with it. I didn't watch it. I didn't even read the novel. So I'm going at this from a movie perspective, just as my first time watching these Dune movies, Dune Part 1 and Dune 2. I did enjoy it more than most people did. We're continuing the story with Paul Atreides, who is played by Timothée Chalamet, and I really enjoyed his storyline through this. Now, I know that a lot of people didn't like the story of Chani, and her character was destroyed. I have watched a lot of Dune lore videos since watching Dune Part 2, so I understand people's gripes with Chani. I'm simply going by just the movie itself, what I watched on the screen. And considering I went back and saw this movie multiple times, I did enjoy it. It was a good movie. And you know what? That popcorn bucket, that was something else. Number 6 is The Substance. Now, this was a movie that took me by surprise. I've never once watched a movie in the body horror genre. In fact, I didn't even know that body horror was a genre of movie to watch. So this was my introduction into that genre of movie, and I absolutely loved this movie. I was so invested in the characters. Demi Moore played this role phenomenally. Even though she didn't say many things, it was a very quiet movie, especially when she was on screen. The way she was able to emote, all of her feelings, everything that she was thinking, all of her insecurities as an older woman, she was able to get that across on screen, and we were able to pick it up as an audience member. It's such a great movie. It's such a great, interesting concept. Margaret Qualley plays opposite Demi Moore. She was phenomenal in her role too. It's very interesting. I think that when the character of Sue is on the screen, you get more conversation, more talking, and she did a great job portraying a more peppy, a more younger, a more lively version of Demi Moore's Elizabeth. So this movie was great. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend The Substance. Ooh, we're down to my top 5. Now, my top 5, honestly, they're interchangeable depending on the day, depending on how I am feeling. But right now, I did rank my top 5 with how much I enjoyed it and how much I went back to the theater to watch these 5 films. So number 5 is Sonic 3. I really love Sonic 3. I thought it was a huge step up from Sonic 2. They just get better and better as these movies go on. Sonic 3, you follow the story of Shadow, and Shadow is kind of like the opposite of Sonic. arc, right? Sonic came to Earth, found happiness, found love, found a family, whereas Shadow came to Earth and was experimented upon. His one chance to find a family was stripped from him, and so he has nothing left but revenge in his heart. And you really feel for this character. Shadow is played by Keanu Reeves, which was a fantastic, phenomenal pick to voice the character of Shadow. You need somebody with that intensity, with that grit, but who also has a softer side whenever he's reflecting upon what he lost. So you need someone who can do that with their voice. And with Keanu Reeves, they really found the perfect voice actor. During the climax of this film, you see Sonic going through something, almost going through the type of loss that Shadow went through. However, even though he was angry, through that anger, he still chose a different path. All of the character arcs in this movie were great. I loved this movie so much, went back and saw it multiple times, and it got me even more excited to see Sonic 4. Number 4 is The Fall Guy. I think a lot of people forgot that The Fall Guy came out in 2024, and I had so much fun with this movie. Ryan Gosling, Emily Blunt, they were phenomenal in this movie. It was like a love letter to stunt doubles. Ryan Gosling plays the stunt double Colt Seavers to Aaron Taylor Johnson's Tom Ryder. He's a stunt double who suffered a back injury and was out for a long time, who also happened to be in a relationship with a director played by Emily Blunt. Her name was Jodie. An accident happens. He hurts his back and leaves the movie industry, but he's kind of coerced back into being a stunt double again for the same actor. Shenanigans happen from there. The main actor gets himself into a lot of trouble and has to have a fall guy, that fall guy being Colt Seavers. A lot of things happened throughout that movie, but the movie itself was action-packed. It was very intense. There was never a dull moment in that movie. And Ryan Gosling, I mean, his comedic timing is perfect in this movie. I thought this movie was so enjoyable. I saw it multiple times at the theater as well as on streaming. It is one of my top 5 movie of the year. Number 3 is Deadpool and Wolverine. Directed by Sean Levy, this stars Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool and Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. Their bromance is like nothing. It's like nothing I've ever seen before. Hugh Jackman carries this film for me. Him coming back as Wolverine, and not just any Wolverine. This is like a Wolverine from another universe. He plays a totally, completely different Wolverine character than we're used to seeing, than the one we've been following for such a long time. And you really get attached to him so quickly. Like his intensity with this different Wolverine character from another universe really did sell me on this movie. It was so much fun. He really brought his A game to this film. The marketing for this movie was fantastic, and my theater erupted with all of the cameos that they had in this movie, all of the cameos that were kept under wraps, and I refused to really look into any spoilers for this movie because I wanted to be genuinely surprised at the movie theater, and I was. All of the cameos were really, really good, and by far my favorite one was Channing Tatum's Gambit, because Gambit is my favorite X-Men. I absolutely love that character, and while Channing Tatum wouldn't be my first pick to play Gambit, I thought he did an excellent job with the character. You really see how much he loves that character, how much he really wanted to bring that character to life, and seeing Channing Tatum like in those battles, in those fights as Gambit really just made the movie for me. I was smiling ear to ear. I loved this movie. It was so good. It was so much fun, and I did go back and see it multiple times. Number 2 is Wicked Part 1. Now, it's probably not a surprise to any of you who watch my channel regularly that I was going to go see Wicked because it is my favorite Broadway musical of all time. I've seen it multiple times on Broadway. I'm a huge fan of Idina Menzel and Kristen Chenoweth, who originated the roles of Glinda and Elphaba, and I've been anticipating and waiting for this movie for years. It kept getting delayed, then COVID, all of that stuff happened, which kept delaying this movie, and it was finally releasing, and it did not disappoint. It really delivered like practically a carbon copy from stage to screen, Act 1 of Wicked. By far, the standout to me was Cynthia Erivo. Despite all of the things that we see outside of the movie in cast interviews, just looking at the movie itself, the acting, the singing, performing, all of that, Cynthia Erivo just knocked it out of the park in the role of Elphaba. She can sing, and you need to have an extremely powerful voice in order to play the role of Elphaba, and she knocked it out of the park for me. Another movie that I watched multiple times, and as soon as it was available to buy on digital, I went and did that. I even made like a special trip to Orlando in order to see the Wicked store. That's how much I love this movie. That's how much I've loved this IP of Wicked. And for that reason, it is number 2. My number 1 movie of the year was pretty much a shock to me. I didn't think that this movie was going to be as good as it was. And that movie is The Wild Robot. Directed by Chris Sanders, this movie follows a robot whose name is Roz, played by Lupita Nyong'o, who accidentally becomes the mother of a baby duck. She accidentally gets stranded on this uninhabited island, and because she is a helper robot and there are no humans to help, she ends up trying to assist all of these forest animals who are living on this island. And in the process of doing so, she accidentally becomes the caretaker of this baby duck after an accident left this baby duck an orphan. I feel like this story can stand the test of time. You can watch it as a young child and really enjoy this movie, take away a different message, and then go back and watch it as an adult and watch it through a whole new lens, and it'll have you feeling like a whole different way. The voice acting in this movie is incredible. I honestly didn't even know that that was Lupita's voice until after I got out of the movie and I looked up who was voicing all of these animals because I couldn't really tell which actor was voicing who. This is such a great movie with very interesting animation, and like I said, it's a story that can really stand the test of time. If you haven't seen The Wild Robot yet, I mean, I highly recommend that you do. It's such a great movie, and I don't think that many people have seen this movie. I think that it kind of went under the radar in 2024, and because I think that it's such a great film that can stand the test of time, I put it at my number 1 spot. So those were my top 10 favorite movies of this year. Again, like I said at the beginning, I haven't seen all of the movies that came out this year, but those are based on all of the movies that I did go out and see. Stay tuned because I am going to do a top 10 worst movies of 2024 that I went and saw. That video should come out this week as well. So stay tuned for that. Anyways, guys, that's it for me. Let me know what your top 10 movies of 2024 were. Leave those in the comments down below, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye, everyone.